The party that cost me my father, true story of regret and loss. The night her father asked her to stay was the night everything still could have been saved. She didn't know that yet. She thought there would always be another tomorrow. Emily Carter stood near the front door of her childhood home in suburban Ohio, one heel already on, phone glowing in her palm. Notifications stacked endlessly. Jenny's 23rd, don't be late, everyone's coming. Her reflection in the hallway mirror looked alive, young, impatient. Behind her, the house felt like it was holding its breath. On the couch, Daniel Carter struggled to shift his weight. The cancer had reduced him to careful movements and shallow breaths, but his eyes still followed his daughter the same way they had when she was 5, attentive, proud, afraid of missing something important. He said softly. Before you go, could you sit with me tonight? Emily turned, forcing a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. Dad, I told you. It's just one night. Jenny's birthday. Everyone will be there. Her mother, Linda, emerged from the kitchen holding a folded blanket. She looked exhausted, not just tired, but worn down by months of appointments, insurance calls, and watching the man she loved disappear inch by inch. Emily, she said carefully, the doctor was very clear today. Your father shouldn't be alone tonight. Emily exhaled sharply.
If this story touched you, leave a comment and share your own story, it might help someone else.
Mom, please. You're acting like this is the end. Daniel swallowed. It might be, he said, almost apologetically. I just wanted to talk. About when you were little. About things. Emily stepped forward and hugged him, quick, distracted, already pulling away. Don't be dramatic, Dad. I'll be back tomorrow. I promise. From the hallway, her Uncle Mark watched in silence, arms crossed. He had been staying over to help with bills and paperwork. The kind of responsibilities Emily avoided thinking about. Promises don't age well, he muttered. Emily shot him a glare. Uncle Mark, stop. Daniel smiled faintly, trying to ease the tension. Have fun, he said. Take pictures. And she did. The party was loud, crowded, and careless. Emily laughed, danced, and posed for photos with red cups raised high. She ignored the missed calls from her mother, probably just checking in, she told herself. Life felt normal again. Safe. Untouched by hospital rooms and quiet goodbyes. At 2:41 a.m., Daniel asked Linda if Emily was on her way home. At 2:58, his breathing slowed. At 3:04, it stopped. In his hand was a piece of folded paper, a crayon drawing of a little girl holding her father's hand. The next morning, Emily would return home with balloons still in her car, and walk straight into a silence she would never escape. Emily was still humming when she turned onto her street. The song from last night's party played softly through her car speakers, the kind of careless pop tune that had felt perfect hours ago. A half-deflated balloon rolled against the back seat every time she braked. Her phone buzzed, 23 unread messages, most of them from friends sharing photos she was tagged in. She smiled, reaching for her lipstick at the red light. Then she saw the house. The curtains were closed. No porch light. No movement. It was too quiet for a place that had become a revolving door of nurses, neighbors, and relatives. Emily parked crookedly and stepped out, heels crunching against the gravel. Something cold settled in her stomach. She knocked once. Then again. The door opened slowly. Her mother stood there barefoot, hair uncombed, eyes swollen and red. Linda didn't speak. She didn't have to. No, Emily whispered. No, Mom, don't say that. Linda stepped aside, revealing the living room. The couch was empty. The oxygen machine sat unplugged, its tube coiled neatly as someone had already accepted what had happened. The smell of antiseptic was gone, replaced by something heavier, final. He passed at 3:04, Linda said quietly. He asked for you. Emily dropped her purse. I was coming back. I just. Her legs gave out. She sank onto the floor, clawing at the carpet as if the right words might undo time. He was fine. He was talking. He smiled. Uncle Mark appeared from the hallway, his face hard with exhaustion and restrained anger. He waited, he said. That's what hurts the most. Emily looked at the side table and saw it. The drawing. Her drawing. A crooked stick figure family, faded with age, labeled in her childhood handwriting, me and Daddy. It was folded carefully, the edges worn soft. Linda picked it up with trembling hands. He held this all night. Emily pressed her fists into her mouth to keep from screaming. By noon, the house filled with voices, too loud, too sharp. Her older brother Ryan arrived from Boston, eyes already searching for someone to blame. You left, he snapped. You seriously left? I didn't know, Emily cried. That's the problem, Ryan shot back. You never want to know. Phones rang. Funeral arrangements. Insurance calls. Aunt Susan whispered harsh judgments to anyone who would listen. Every sound felt like punishment. That night, Emily sat alone in her childhood bedroom, scrolling through party videos. Her own laughter echoed from the screen, bright, careless, cruel. She hit play on the last voicemail from her father. Hey, Em, if you get this. I'm proud of you. Always. Her phone slipped from her hand. The funeral would bring them together, and tear the family apart in ways Emily never saw coming. The church was full, and somehow that made it worse. Emily sat in the front pew, hands clenched so tightly in her lap that her nails left half-moon marks in her skin. She had imagined the funeral would feel private, quiet, and contained. Instead, strangers filled every row, neighbors, co-workers, men in faded military jackets who nodded solemnly at the closed casket. People who had shown up. Her father would have noticed that. The pastor spoke about duty, about quiet sacrifice, about a man who never missed a shift and never complained. Each word felt like it was aimed directly at her. Emily kept her eyes fixed on the flag draped over the casket, the red and white blurring through tears she refused to let fall. Linda sat beside her, rigid and distant. They hadn't spoken since the night before. On Emily's other side, Ryan leaned forward, elbows on knees, jaw clenched. He hadn't looked at her once. During the service, Emily felt a tap on her shoulder. She turned to see her Aunt Susan leaning in, lips tight with judgment. If you had stayed, Susan whispered, maybe he wouldn't have died alone. Emily's breath caught. She stared straight ahead, cheeks burning, the accusation echoing louder than the pastor's voice. After the service, people lined up to offer condolences. A gray-haired man in a worn jacket took Emily's hands. Your dad talked about you constantly, he said. Said you were his greatest achievement. The words shattered her. She broke down right there, sobbing into her mother's shoulder. But Linda didn't hold her back. At the reception hall, tension cracked open. Uncle Mark argued with Susan over medical bills. He worked his whole life, and this is what he gets, Mark snapped. Debt and judgment. Ryan cornered Emily near the coffee table. You know he called me that night, he said. Said he didn't want you to feel guilty. Emily looked up sharply. He called you? Ryan nodded, voice tight. He said you'd always run from hard things. And he was afraid you'd regret this. Emily felt the room spin. Later, as people began to leave, Linda handed Emily a small envelope. I found this in the drawing, she said quietly. I think it's for you. Inside was a note in Daniel's shaky handwriting. If you're reading this, I waited. But that's okay. I always knew you'd fly further than me. Just don't forget where you came from. Emily collapsed onto a chair, clutching the paper like a lifeline. But from across the room, Ryan watched her with narrowed eyes. Because he knew something she didn't. That night, Ryan would reveal the truth about what really happened before their father died, and it would change everything. The house didn't feel like a home anymore. It felt like a courtroom. 3 days after the funeral, Daniel's paperwork covered the dining table: hospital bills, insurance letters, overdue notices stacked like accusations. Emily sat silently at one end, the note from her father folded and unfolded until the creases softened. Ryan paced. "They denied the full life insurance claim," he said. "Turns out Dad stopped the policy 2 years ago." Linda looked up sharply. "Why would he do that?" Ryan's jaw tightened. "Because he was paying Emily's tuition." The room went still. Emily's head snapped up. "What?" "He didn't want loans hanging over you," Ryan continued, voice shaking with restrained anger. "He drained his savings. The insurance. Everything. He figured he'd have time to rebuild it." Emily felt sick. "He never told me." "He asked me not to," Ryan said. "Said you'd feel guilty and try to quit school." Uncle Mark slammed his palm on the table. "So now we lose the house." Linda's hands trembled. "Daniel would never want that." "He already chose," Mark snapped. "And now we're paying for it." Emily stood abruptly. "This is my fault. I'll sell my car. I'll take out loans. You'll do nothing," Linda said, her voice suddenly sharp. "You already took enough." The words cut deeper than anything before. That night, Emily overheard Linda crying on the phone with Susan. "I begged her to stay," Linda whispered. "I begged her. And he waited anyway." Emily pressed her back against the wall, chest tightening. She realized something terrifying: her mother wasn't angry. She was disappointed. And disappointment didn't fade easily. The next morning, Emily made a decision. She withdrew from school for the semester. Ryan scoffed when she told him. "You think that fixes it?" "No," Emily said quietly. "But running broke us. I won't do it again." Days passed. Emily took over caregiving tasks she'd once avoided: organizing bills, cooking meals, sitting in silence with her mother. She slept in her father's old chair sometimes, clutching the drawing like a confession. One afternoon, while sorting through a desk drawer, Emily found another envelope, addressed to Ryan. Inside was a letter. Ryan read it in silence, face draining of color. "What?" Emily asked. Ryan swallowed hard. "He knew you were leaving that night. He told me. He didn't blame you." Emily's knees weakened. "He said the cancer was already winning," Ryan continued. "And he didn't want you to stay out of guilt. He wanted you to stay out of love." Emily covered her mouth, sobbing. Emily would soon realize that love, once delayed, demands a different kind of payment. Grief didn't leave the house. It settled into it. Emily learned this slowly, in the way the floor creaked differently at night, in how her father's chair seemed heavier when she sat in it, as if it remembered him. Staying was harder than leaving had ever been, and there was no applause for it. Weeks passed. Emily worked mornings at a local cafe to help cover groceries and utility bills. In the afternoons, she sorted paperwork and sat with her mother, who had grown quieter, more fragile. Linda no longer corrected Emily or snapped at her. That hurt more than anger. Silence meant the wound was still open. One evening, Uncle Mark arrived unannounced, anger simmering beneath forced politeness. "We need to be realistic," he said, spreading documents across the table. "The house has equity. Selling it solves most problems." Linda shook her head. "This house is Daniel." "And Daniel is gone," Mark replied sharply. "Memories don't pay debts." Emily felt something inside her shift. "Then I'll take responsibility," she said. "I'll stay. I'll help Mom. We won't sell." Ryan scoffed from the doorway. "You don't get to play hero now." Emily turned to him. "I'm not trying to be a hero. I'm trying to be present. Ryan's anger cracked. You weren't present when it mattered. That night, Emily sat alone in the living room, staring at her father's chair. She played the voicemail again, not to torture herself, but to remember the man behind the guilt. She whispered apologies into the quiet, knowing they wouldn't be heard. A week later, Emily made another choice. She declined a prestigious internship offer that would have taken her across the country. When Linda found the email open on the laptop, she finally spoke. Why would you do that? Emily swallowed. Because I already left once. Linda stared at her daughter for a long moment. Then, slowly, she reached out and touched Emily's hand. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was something. That night, Emily dreamed of her father sitting in the chair, smiling but silent. When she woke, the dream clung to her like a warning. Some mistakes don't disappear. They wait, demanding proof, not promises. Emily stood, walked into the living room, and sat in the chair again. She would stay. Even if staying hurts more than leaving ever did. But staying would cost Emily something she hadn't yet realized, and the final test was still ahead. The chair faced the window, just as it always had. Daniel used to sit there every evening, watching the streetlights flicker on one by one, counting time in quiet ways no one noticed. Emily sat in it now, knees drawn close, the childhood drawing folded carefully in her hands. Outside, autumn leaves skittered across the driveway. Life continued. It always did. Linda stood in the doorway for a long moment before speaking. He used to say this was his favorite time of day, she said softly. Right before dark. Emily nodded. He told me once that it made him feel like he hadn't wasted the day. They stood in silence, not uncomfortable, not warm. Honest. I blamed you, Linda finally said. Not for leaving. But for reminding me how easy it is to believe there's more time. Emily's throat tightened. I would give anything to go back. I know, Linda replied. But this isn't about going back. That night, they opened the last box of Daniel's belongings together. Inside were photos, old receipts, and folded notes. At the bottom, Emily found a small envelope with her name written in careful handwriting she immediately recognized. Inside was a single sentence. If you ever feel like you failed me, remember this. I loved you before you ever had the chance to disappoint me. Emily broke. She cried the way she hadn't since childhood, openly, without shame. Linda held her this time. Really held her. Weeks later, the house didn't feel like a courtroom anymore. It felt like a place that had survived something terrible. Emily worked. Linda healed slowly. Ryan visited more often, his anger softened into regret of his own. On the anniversary of Daniel's death, Emily placed the drawing in a frame and set it beside the chair. She sat down, closed her eyes, and spoke aloud. I stayed, she whispered. I'm staying. The chair didn't answer. But it didn't feel empty anymore. Emily learned that regret doesn't vanish when you do the right thing later. It stays, quiet, instructive, permanent. But so does love. And love, when honored, can still shape the future. Some lessons arrive too late to prevent pain. But not too late to change who you become. Emily stood, turned off the light, and left the chair facing the window. Just as her father always had.